J-Shelf, my brand new review series. Is going to cover all sorts of fun goodies from Japan. From movies, to music, to books, and video games, J-Shelf is going to have it all. So for this first installment, I thought we could ease into the review series with something similar to the Japanese horror review show with a movie review. And this time we're going to be looking at the 2005 film Densha Otoko, The Train Man. The story of Densha Otoko is a fairly interesting one, and it began life as a series of message board transcripts on the popular 2-channel website. Now, these message board postings about a seemingly very nerdy man trying to win the affections of a very pretty girl sparked the interest of not only film and TV producers, but also the interest of the whole of Japan, as this became a huge runaway success, and many people were talking about this story. So, while we can't say for sure if the original posts are nothing more than the backings of a production company, we can say that the story has a very universal appeal and that viewers of all audiences and ages are really going to enjoy this one. The story begins with our narrator, known only as Densha Otoko, and he is coming home from Akihabara, which is the electronic district of Tokyo. Now, right away, we are introduced to this character and we can gather that he is an otaku. He is very much into the anime and manga subculture, and as such, he's kind of socially awkward, but in general, you can tell he's a nice guy. He has a lot of social anxiety, and he's very shy. However, one day on a train, he sees a very pretty girl being harassed by a drunken man, so he bravely gets up and goes over to kind of save the girl from this guy. And this woman is very, very happy, and she wants to show her appreciation to the train man, and so she gets down his information and later on mails him a gift. But the gift includes her phone number. So the very nerdy train man, not knowing what to do, rushes online to a message board. And so he gets all of this advice and encouragement from these strangers all across Japan who are rooting for him to win the affections of this girl. So it's really fun to watch this bumbling, kind of neurotic, kind of very awkward character go through these dates, and he makes mistakes and he makes a fool of himself at times, and it's heartwarming, it's nice. He's just able to kind of ease into being himself. The story of a nice guy trying to step out of his comfort zone and trying to fight his insecurities to win the affections of a girl is one that I think a lot of audiences will appreciate and really embrace. Surely a lot of people in the audience watching this will probably see parts of themselves perhaps in the main character, or at the very least they'll know of somebody whom they can relate this character to. The anonymous nature of the film also adds to this appeal in that we never are given the real names of any of the characters. They're known only by their message board titles, and so I think this makes all of the characters seem much more relatable to a wider audience. The cast all do a superb job in this, and fans of my J-horror reviews will probably recognize Miki Nakatani from Ringu 2. And so, yeah, the cast is great, the music is upbeat, the setting is wonderful, there's lots of really good shots of Akihabara. So having been there before, I was really, really excited to see this in the movie. And the dialogue is witty, it's very funny, the movie has many hilarious moments and many heartwarming moments as well with the romance. So this is a movie that a lot of audiences can enjoy. People of any age can really watch this. The DVD comes from Viz Pictures, and overall it's an okay job. There's nothing too much to write home about. It's got the Japanese audio with English subtitles. There's no English dub available on this one. And the extras are fairly limited. Usually I think they were just some brief little descriptors of some of the lingo used in the film. Train Man went on to become the stuff of legends in Japan. This original story from the message board inspired not only this movie, but a television series, various manga series, the book of the same name, I believe, theatrical play, and probably so much more that I'm not even aware of. So this is certainly a very universally appealing story. I think if you want a movie that is very heartwarming and will have you cheering at the screen for this guy to make a move or to hold the girl's hand or to say those very important words, then I think you'll really enjoy this one. Everyone I've shown this movie to has loved it, and everyone gets so enthusiastic and excited about the movie. So I think this is definitely a DVD that you need in your collection, and it's great for any occasion to watch. So thank you for joining me on this first installment of the J Shelf, and we'll be back next week with a new item to look at, but I'm not going to say what just yet. So let me know what you think of this new review show, and as always, we'll see you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to this week's J Shelf. So this time around, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite games from the Sega Dreamcast, and that would be the revolutionary Phantasy Star Online. First released back in the year 2000, this was a huge success for Sega and a revitalization of the original series. Speaking of which, before we dive into this game, let's look back at the history of Phantasy Star. The original Phantasy Star was released on the Sega Master System in 1987. And with a deep sci-fi storyline for its time, some impressive 3D first-person dungeon sequences, and really colorful graphics, this pushed the hardware as far as it could go, and it proved to be an instant success. The series then jumped to the Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, and it was followed by 3 sequels. The 4th game in the series, Phantasy Star 4, is seen as one of the best games on the Genesis. With the release of the Sega Dreamcast, Sega finally saw fit to take the Phantasy Star series out of hibernation and update it for a new generation. What resulted was Phantasy Star Online. Now remember, this is coming at a time when online gaming was not that common for consoles, and so Sega was really pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible in an online game. Players could interact with one another, chat in real time, and join up from people all over the world on a hack-and-slash RPG quest that spanned 4 different maps. The turn-based style RPG gameplay from the original 4 games was replaced with hack-and-slash action RPG elements. Players just had to hit the A button repeatedly, and they could go swinging through hordes of different monsters. So, while this alienated some players of the original series, it did bring this game into a new audience, and it was much more accessible for the online portion of the game. There are unofficial fan servers online, so people that still want to experience Phantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast, or its other versions on the Xbox or GameCube, can still find a way to hook up the game and play online. The story of Phantasy Star Online did not take place in the universe of the original 4 games, although there are countless characters, items, and locations that seem similar. Phantasy Star Online was later upgraded on the Dreamcast in version 2. This version saw some new enemies, the character could level up to 200 instead of 100, and some new online modes. The game was later ported to the GameCube and Xbox, and these ones included an amazing split-screen, offline multiplayer mode, as well as 4 new maps, so it greatly increased the replay value. In addition to the 3rd Phantasy Star Online title, which was a card-based fighter on the GameCube, a 4th was also released on the PC, known as Blue Burst, which included even more new levels and enemies. The version of Phantasy Star that I'm playing here is version 2 on the Dreamcast, and it's so relaxing to just come home from work, pick up the controller, and just hack and slash my way through so many different monsters. So while the game is somewhat repetitive, it is fun to just level up and get new items and gain experience. It is unfortunate that the online mode is currently no longer available. However, there are plenty of missions and side quests that can be had in the single-player offline mode. After the success of Phantasy Star Online, Sega decided to release a new Phantasy Star series entitled Phantasy Star Universe. And while this one attempted to get back to more of the story and character-based elements of the original 4 games, many fans felt that the story was too childish and the characters too cartoony. It is currently unknown if Sega will ever really go back to the turn-based elements of the original 4 titles. However, Phantasy Star lives on. New versions have been released on the DS and PSP, and there are countless ways to play the original games on different ports and collections available on the PS2 and other systems. For me, I still enjoy playing the Dreamcast original. It's a relaxing game, it's so much fun to play, and I really recommend you try searching it out. So, that's my recommendation for this week. I really love the Phantasy Star Online series. I love the original series as well, but for what it's worth, I think they're 2 great franchises existing in the same universe. So, I hope you enjoyed this week's J-Shelf, and we'll be back next week with another review. See you next time. everybody, welcome to this week's J Shelf. So this week is actually going to be my first ever book review because I wanted to talk about Ogawa Yoko's The Housekeeper and The Professor. Now, this book was first published by Miss Ogawa in 2003 in Japan. It just came out by Picador Press in America in 2009. And I think it is just another great example of why Miss Ogawa is one of the top contemporary female Japanese writers. I'm going to put some pictures in the background of this video to kind of go along with the review. And these are pictures that I shot both while in Tokyo 2 years ago and more recently in Iwate. So as I mentioned previously, Ogawa Yoko is a contemporary Japanese writer, and she burst onto the scene in 1988. And since then, she has over 20 different works accredited to her name, and she's won many of Japan's top literary prizes, including the Akutagawa Prize and the Tanizaki Prize. Now, this book, The Housekeeper and The Professor, revolves around 3 characters, and we never learn any of their names. The narrator is a young woman who is a housekeeper, so she takes care of different people and their belongings. She's always cleaning, doing laundry, stuff like that. This is how she's able to pay the bills and keep on living and support her 10-year-old son. Now, her 10-year-old son is a very adventurous little boy. He likes going to baseball games. He likes collecting trading cards. He's a really nice kid. And he is given the nickname Root from the Professor. Now, the Professor is a very mysterious character, and he is the newest client for the housekeeper. She has been assigned to work with him to take care of him and his stuff, but a lot of other housekeepers have been over to the Professor's place before, but they've all left just as quickly. And that has to do with the Professor's condition. It seems that many years ago he had a really traumatic head experience, and so now he can't remember anything that happened before the experience. And his memory only lasts about an hour and a half before it keeps resetting. So he's constantly having to write down little notes and put them on his coat. And obviously, to have a relationship with someone like this, to work so closely with someone like this, can be very tiring and very frustrating. So the book is all about the relationships between this mathematical professor who is finding the beauty in numbers and this woman who is just trying to support herself and support her son, and kind of the relationships that they all form as this quasi-family. For readers who are looking just for a really beautiful book with a very simple yet elegant story, then I highly recommend you check out The Housekeeper and The Professor. This is actually Ogawa Yoko's second book-length work in English translation. And last year, a book called The Diving Pool came out in English, and that included 3 shorter stories. Thankfully, more of her works are going to be available in English translation next year, with Hotel Iris coming out in March, I believe. And this is actually one of her most widely translated works. Sometimes Ogawa will spend very long amounts of time talking about mathematics, since The Professor is all about mathematics. And there are just pages and pages of mathematical theories. And while it's very interesting, and she certainly did her research about this, I think I was more intrigued by how the characters reacted towards one another and how they were able to form these family-like bonds despite being a very broken up family in their personal lives. I heartedly recommend that if you're looking for a very elegant, a very nice and moving and quiet and simple book, then The Housekeeper and The Professor is really one you should be on the lookout for. And check out Ogawa's other work as well. Thank you for joining me on this week's J Shelf. A very, very beautiful book. I really recommend it if you're in the mood for a moving story. I hope you have enjoyed this review, and I hope you enjoyed the pictures to go along in the background. And as always, we'll see you next time. Hey gang, welcome to this week's J Shelf. So today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite Japanese musicians, and that would be Sakamoto Ryuichi. Now, Sakamoto got his start in music in the late 70s with the band YMO, and they were a really famous electronic group, and this is coming hot on the heels of Kraftwerk. And YMO was one of the key groups in moving electronic music into the masses. Sakamoto goes solo and releases a very, very impressive career on his own. and he has just run the gamut from any musical style you can think of, from traditional Japanese pop music to electronic music to operas, video game soundtracks, movie soundtracks, jazz music, bossa nova. So the man has done everything. His most notable works have been the soundtracks to Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. The main theme from that is insanely popular, and you've probably heard it. You may not know it. Little Buddha and The Last Emperor. And he's won Academy Awards, he's won Grammys, he's won Golden Globes. The man has just won everything and done everything. And today's album that I want to talk about comes from, I believe it was either late 2001 or early 2002, but it's called Comica, and it's a series of 6 tracks, and they range from roughly about 5 minutes to closer to 10. And it's a very moody, very atmospheric, quasi-minimalist electronic work. And it is just so beautiful, and I've listened to this album countless times. I believe the last track on there he wrote for a science theme park. Comica is an incredible album, and it's only one of many incredible albums that Sakamoto has released. If you go away with nothing from this video, I just hope that you go up to YouTube's little search bar, type Ryuichi Sakamoto, hit enter, and you will just find so many good tracks. Rather than blab on about his albums incessantly, I think instead we'll just play little clips from all the tracks on this album, and I'll just let the music do the talking, and I'll set it to some pictures that I've taken. Overall, please search out Sakamoto Ryuichi. Either search out this album or search out more of his work. Hope you enjoyed the tunes. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.